Hey guys, so I'm back after a while and I have an interesting video today. So, originally in the first video I did, I called myself Tea Bottles. I'm gonna change that name to Muslim Cafe. And yes, I am Muslim. And so in this channel, I'm planning to make different types of content talking about religion, ideologies, politics, probably culture, history, Islam specifically, and maybe tech. Now today's video is kind of like similar to the previous video. The previous video was, of course, a brief history of the Israel-Palestine conflict, and now, uh, you know, the uh, in terms of the ideology Zionism, today's video is going to be about different types of Zionism. Um, so we're going to get into that. It's going to be Jewish Zionism, Christian Zionism, Hindu Zionism, atheistic slash secular Zionism, and Islamic Zionism or Muslim Zionism. Yes, Muslim Zionism. So we're going to talk about all of these different things, kind of explain to you guys the all these types of Zionisms. So let's get into it. Now, an overview of what Zionism is again. So Zionism basically is a movement or the belief of a Jewish homeland, an establishment or reestablishment of Jewish homeland in Palestine. Uh, that's basically what it is in a nutshell. Look into Jewish Zionism. Jewish Zionism has um, basically two different types. You have the secular Jewish Zionism, and then you have the religious Jewish Zionism. So, as many people heard, the founder of the movement Zionism was a man called Theodor Herzl. Now, Theodor Herzl was a secular um Jewish man, and he was most likely an atheist, might have been an agnostic. I'm not fully sure, but definitely not religious and secular. And he put the idea of having a Jewish homeland, especially after World War II and the Holocaust happened, and oppression of Jews and all that. He put forward this idea. Um, but his idea came also from European colonial logic, as he said that the transfer of the Palestinian population would be essential to bring about and in the long term ensure the viability of the Zionist Jewish state. Um, but he also proposed alternative solutions such as the Uganda Plan, which proposed the establishment of a Jewish homeland outside of Palestine. He even talks about Argentina came in. In the end, Palestine was chosen. I'm not fully actually sure why. Um, because they were secular at the end of the day. Theodor Herzl, he was secular, so there was no really religious basis to it. And of course, as it was mentioned in the previous video, the Balfour Declaration by a rich Jewish man in Britain. Um, basically from British support. Arthur Balfour signed the declaration, so that's why it was called the Balfour Declaration, and that's gave the signal for the establishment of Jews to go to Palestine. And then a concept of something called Aliyah, uh, Aliyah. I'm trying to pronounce it correctly, but that's probably the correct pronunciation. Aliyah, that came in, which is the belief that um to the land of Israel now, or the state of Israel, um Jews have the law of return to go there if you have Jewish background. And a Jewish background, with the race thing, with the religion thing, that's a different topic altogether. That'll probably be in a different video. Now, the thing about secular Jewish Zionists, they either have archaeological claims, um or historical claims, and that can also include that they claim that uh during the 1940s, 30s, or even before that, they purchased land from Arabs. So these are some justifications they give to their belief in Zionism. And also, when it comes to the historical claims or the archaeological claims, there's actually an entire team of archaeologists, ar- archaeologists that the state of Israel has. Now, when it comes to religious Jewish Zionism, the founder for this movement is somebody named Rabbi Abraham Cook. So, Rabbi Abraham Cook, he basically, his justification was that this Jewish national revival was a part of a divine plan, and Jews are now obligated to go back to the land of Israel. And he uses justification for this by using medieval and classical Jewish scholars as well. So there was a scholar in around the 1200s named Nachmanides. Nachmanides. 1200s or 1100s, I'm not sure. It was around that time. And one of the commandments that Nachmanides gives is that Jews at any generation could actually take the land of Israel because it's theirs to begin with. And it wouldn't be theft because is theirs to begin with. And Rabbi Abraham Cook also called Nachmanides the father of Israel. Now they use, the Hebrew Bible or the Torah and the Talmud to justify their claims. And you have modern manifestations of religious Jewish Zionism. Many years ago, you had a Jewish extremist in Israel called Baruch Goldstein. His name was Baruch Goldstein, and he literally killed a bunch of Palestinians um just for no reason. He just killed them. Thought they were probably inferior. Probably he used his own interpretation of the Hebrew Bible and Talmud to do these things. And he was killed in that mix as well. Like somebody killed him or some people killed him. And now, according to the Jerusalem Post, About 10% of Israelis consider him a national hero. They consider Baruch Goldstein a national hero. And now you have in the Israeli government people like Itamar Ben-Gvir, who literally had a picture of Baruch Goldstein in his room, and he just took it down later. You have people like Yishai Flesher, um, yeah, Yishai Flesher, who's a religious Jewish Zionist himself, and you have many others like this. Um, the West Bank settlers, a lot of them are religious Jewish Zionists. Um, so this is in a nutshell of what Jewish Zionism is in total, with the secular Jewish Zionism and the religious Jewish Zionism. But of course, there are many Jews that are against Zionism, that are anti-Zionist. You have people like Norman Finkelstein, Noam Chomsky, Dave Smith, Ron Unz, um, Glenn Greenwald, Ilan Pape, Max Blumenthal. So these are some like secular anti-Zionists, and then you have religious anti-Zionists like the Nuclear Karta, the Satmar, and you probably have some others as well. There are degrees to their anti-Zionism, though, when it comes to the religious ones. Um, but yeah, and now let's move on to Christian Zionism. So Christian Zionism has a uh has an interesting history because it relates a lot to Christian theology itself. So Christian theology, um, according to the mainstream three sects, which is Catholicism, Eastern Orthodox, and Protestantism, they always believed in something called supersessionism, which is um the old covenant, the old Jewish covenant that was with Moses, that is now replaced with Jesus Christ, a new covenant, which is the Christian covenant. Um, and now you have to accept Christ as your Lord and Savior. You have to believe in the resurrection and all of these things, to be a Christian. But Christian Zionism deals with something called dispensationalism. So, in the 1800s, there was a man named John Nelson Darby. He was one of the organizers of a non-denominational Christian organization or Christian group called the Plymouth Brethren. So Darby is also considered the father of modern dispensationalism. Now, dispensationalism basically is um when you have like two valid beliefs next to each other. Basically, it's a theological framework for how the Bible is interpreted, which maintains the history is divided into multiple ages, in which God interacts with chosen people in different ways. So basically, it means that the Jewish or the Mosaic covenant and the Christian covenant, side to side, are both valid covenants. So it is not supersessionism. Um, and Christians don't need to convert Jews. Regardless if Jews, they don't believe in Jesus properly, they don't accept Jesus, or if many of them even have negative views on Jesus, regardless of all of that. So, when it comes to Darby's eschatology, meaning his belief on the end of times, there will be a worldly restoration of the land of Israel, and Jesus will come and rule over this ethnic Jewish state named Israel. So, according to him, when Jesus comes and rules, all of Israel will believe and follow him. So, the original time before, many of the Jews rejected him, but according to Darby, they will believe in him when he comes back. Now, Darby's dispensationalism also went um, to America later on to Pastor James Hall Brooks. So, Pastor James Hall Brooks, he fell in love with Darby's dispensationalism, and then he used to attend certain events, and over time, the dispensationalism doctrine it got more popular. Then he befriended a man named Cyrus Ingerson Schofield. Now Schofield was he was accused of different like theft, different things like theft, um, probably other things as well. I mean, he wasn't a good husband. He even self-professed alcoholic, so he was an alcoholic as well. But then he became a Christian minister, pastor. That in 1909, Schofield actually wrote his study Bible. And now this Bible, which was called, which became known as the Schofield Bible, had a massive, massive impact on American Protestants, especially the group of evangelicals within Protestants, because Protestants themselves have many groups. So this Bible turned millions of American Christians, Protestants, mainly evangelicals, into Christian Zionists. And in the Schofield Bible, it's basically the King James Bible, but it has his own commentary. And his own commentary has, many things that essentially gives the idea to support the modern state of Israel. Um, and this gives the idea of the Christian Zionists to be loyal to the state of Israel, unconditional loyalty, because that's Jesus's land. Jesus is going to come there. And then when 1948 happened, the state of Israel was established. And that's when Darby, dispensationalism, the Schofield Bible, became even more popular. And Christian Zionists, they became more excited, and um, it spread more. Now, when it something about what I said earlier when it comes to the theology of Christian Zionism is that I was saying, especially from Darby's theology, is that Christian Zionism or Christian Zionists, a lot of them believe that when Jesus comes, generally most or all of the Jews will accept him. But I have seen some nuances, so I'm not sure there's actually if there's a difference within Christian Zionists themselves. But I have seen that certain Christian Zionists they believe that some of the Jews will accept Jesus, but the ones that don't, they'll just get slaughtered and killed. Or generally speaking, Jews won't accept Jesus again. And the Christians will be fine, and the Jews will just get slaughtered and killed. So I'm not fully sure about this. This is just what I've heard. Now let's actually look at a bit of Catholic Zionism, to be specific. And there's no doubt that the Catholic Church has been one of the most powerful religious establishments in history, in human history. Um, so the thing is, but uh, the Catholic Church had to actually reform a lot of their teachings, mainly because of something called the Vatican II, which happened in the 1960s. There was some councils going on, and they had to reform to liberal norms. For example, human rights, feminism, science, even recently LGBTQ. But these reforms also have to do with Judaism. Um, but before I go on to that, when um in the 1940s, when Israel, the state of Israel, was going to be formed in the land of Palestine, and Theodor Herzl um was doing his thing to try to get this established. um Around that time, sometime around that time, it might not have been in the 1940s, but basically he went to the Catholic Pope during that time to get support for Zionism, but the Catholic Pope that time completely rejected it. And it's due, one of the reasons is because the Catholic Pope, he mentioned that the Jewish people have not recognized our Messiah or our Lord, which is Jesus Christ. So that was one of the reasons, and he had other reasons too. So that's a little bit of history there. But going on now, the thing is, without a doubt, the Catholic Church, historically speaking, has had many moments of um, a lot of anti-Jewishness, or what people call anti-Semitism, and it went through that a lot. Now, this is one of the reasons why Zionists have targeted the Catholic Church a lot to change their ways so they can be more comfortable with Israel, with Zionism, with Jews in general. So there were two activists like Jules Isaac, Abraham Heschel, who were in the 1900s, and these were two Jewish activists. And through media companies, they actually attacked the Catholic Church, calling it an immoral, anti-Semitic institution, and demanding change. And because of this, within the Vatican II, they renounced their traditional criticisms of Jews and Judaism. And this is when a little bit of dispensational of what I talked about before was kind of embraced a bit by the Catholic Church themselves as well, that Jews don't need to actually become Christian to be saved. They're fine, they have their own covenant, and Jews should not be blamed for conspiring and plotting to kill Jesus Christ. Moving on, now, these are examples of some prominent Christian Zionists now. You have John Hagee, you have Ron DeSantis, there's Charlie Kirk, you have Steven Crowder, you have the president himself of the United States, Joe Biden, who's a Catholic Zionist, you have George W. Bush, and you have many others. Um, Now, I have to also say, um, since of course there are many Christian Zionists, especially in America within the evangelical community, there are many Christians in America that oppose Zionism completely. Um, and generally speaking, majority of Christians in the world are not Zionists. They're either neutral when it comes to this conflict or pro-Palestinian in some way. Um, So that would mean generally majority of Catholics, or many Catholics, majority of Eastern Orthodox in general. I've personally never seen an Eastern Orthodox Christian Zionist, and then many traditional Protestants as well are not Zionists. So moving on, next will be Hindu Zionists. Now, when it comes to Hindu Zionism, it's actually linked to a movement called Hindutva, which is also called Hindu nationalism. Now, this idea was originally created or founded by a person named Golwalker. And he was basically the first person to come up with a concept called Hindu Rashtra, which can also be termed into the concept of Akhand Bharat theory, which is the idea that the modern day Indian subcontinent, which all of the countries within it, it's a concept of a unified greater India. So the modern day Indian subcontinent, you have India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Bhutan, probably some of Afghanistan or all of Afghanistan is in there, maybe Myanmar, and also Tibet, are ultimately one nation, ultimately Hindu. So he viewed Islam, Christianity, and communism as the biggest threats, as outside forces, and ultimately wanted a pure Hindu nation. Now, in Goldwalker as well, he praised Adolf Hitler in the concept of wanting his nation to be pure, like Hitler wanted his nation to be pure Aryan. So he praised that idea of Hitler. Um, I'm not sure if he praised the Holocaust or anything, but he praised that idea. But what's interesting later on, though, that he actually felt sympathetic towards Jews after they went through oppression and different things. And he also supported the nation of Israel when it was formed originally. Now, throughout the history, though, India, ever since India became a country, um, around the time when the partition happened and they got independence from the British, the partition of India and Pakistan happened. Around that time, Israel was formed as well. But around that time, Golwalker and other people who are Hindutva, who are part of this movement, or can be termed as Hindu extremists, a lot of them actually supported Israel, and they viewed it as like a struggle they had, and then the Jewish people also had a struggle. They kind of viewed it like that. But India, the country itself, the government, did support Palestine. But over time, it actually changed when, especially when not Prime Minister Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister of India back in 2014. And Narendra Modi is known for his Islamophobic rhetoric, um, Hindu extremism, being part of Hindutva, and also being part of a specific party called the BJP party, um, which is, it's pretty much a Hindu nationalist or a Hindutva party. Um, and throughout time, there has been basically a lot of violence in India by Hindu extremists towards especially Muslims, but also towards Christians and Sikhs. But Muslims being probably the largest minority, they get the most hate. That might probably be one of the reasons because they're the largest minority. Um, so a lot of these Hindu extremists are Islamophobic, and at the same time, especially after October 7th, they supported Israel like heavily, a lot of them. And this might come into fact with a lot of their Islamophobic rhetoric. That's probably why one of the reasons why they support Israel heavily. Um, they also say like, Jews can have their one nation, us Hindus have our nation. Why can't that be a thing? They try to justify using these type of reasons. Now, this is also shown even within Bollywood, the Indian movie industry. You have certain actors and actresses, for example, Kangana Ranaut, who's a prominent Bollywood actress, but she's a Zionist. She clearly supported Israel after October 7th, probably still does. Met up with Israeli um, like person in government or some type of professional person representative from Israel, and said that we stand with Israel and stuff. Um, and so many people in India who are Hindu extremists do support Zionism and Israel. Now, that's why the country, the Indian government now run by Modi, they are good partners and good friends with Israel, with Benjamin Netanyahu. Um, but the thing is, many Hindus, of course, don't support Zionism, don't support this Islamophobic rhetoric. Many of them don't. But there are many Hindus that do follow this ideology as well. So, of course, not all of them are the same. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell with Hindu Zionism. Now, next up, we have secular or atheistic Zionism. Now, moving on to secular or atheistic agnostic Zionism. Um, but before I actually go into that, let's kind of look into the history of atheism itself, going back to the early 18th century, so 18th, 19th century, around there. Um, but just like traditional Christianity, atheism or agnosticism around that time was quite so-called anti-Semitic or like anti-Jewish. During this Enlightenment period, um, many of these big Enlightenment atheist thinkers, they were very critical of Jews and Judaism. Well, of course, they were critical of all religions, but i- including Judaism, but yeah, including Islam, Christianity, but very critical when it comes to Judaism, like more so than Islam and Christianity. So they viewed Judaism actually as the worst out of the three religions. So, for example, you had some thinkers like Voltaire, and Voltaire was very anti-Islam as well. Like he mocked the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but also very critical of Jews and Judaism. There was even an article saying like, Voltaire spread darkness, not enlightenment. France should stop really putting him in a high pedestal, like stop worshiping him. Um, and also the article says that he was like a racist, an anti-Semite who inspired Hitler, and his statue needed to be removed. Um, and yeah, his statue was eventually removed. They say like the article says that it was long over. Another person named Baron de Holbach, he criticized Judaism as being the most particularist of all religions. Um, and he himself was like a French rationalist or encyclopedist. Now, what's interesting is that later on, of course, you had different atheistic movements like the communist atheism, and then something called new atheism that's been around for the past 20, maybe 25 years. And when it comes to new atheists, this movement, they actually have a soft side towards Jews or Judaism, and more critical when it comes to Christianity and especially Islam. And this is probably one of the reasons this could be is because a lot of these communist atheists and new atheists are actually from Jewish background themselves. So, when it comes to communist atheism, you have Karl Marx, you have Lenin, you have Trotsky, and then when it comes to the new atheists, you have Sam Harris, you have Bill Maher or Bill Maher, and then also Christopher Hitchens, who's like part Jewish background, and a lot of them are Zionists. And this is where like kind of you see the Zionist secular atheism or agnostic Zionism because of possibly these reasons and these people as well. Some of them also say like, Judaism is they don't have too many followers compared to how Christians and Muslims do. So they also give these type of justifications as well. Now, moving on to our last topic, which is Muslim or Islamic Zionism. Now let's look at Muslim or Islamic Zionism. And some or many may be surprised, but yes, there are Muslim Zionists. But why? Um, Now there is a movement called Matkalism. Now, the Matkalis are basically they follow the leader no matter what. Like they obey the leader no matter what. They try to use theological justifications from the Quran and the Hadith to justify their claims. Um, Basically, they come from the Salafi movement, but they're a part within the Salafi movement. Like many people who are Salafis or Wahhabis, they're not Matkalis, but some are. So it's a movement within the Salafi movement itself, and they basically follow the ruler, and they basically have an attachment towards the Gulf Arab countries like Saudi, UAE, Qatar, those countries. Now we know that Saudi government and UAE government is a bit pro-Israel. Um, and whoever criticize that the Matkalis, they will criticize you. I mean, they'll actually call you a deviant or a Khawarij, which basically means you're a terrorist. Or they'll call you a deviant. Many or some might even just call you a non-Muslim. They might just takfir you, which means calling you a non-Muslim or a kafir. Now, some figures you have like Faris al-Hamadi, um, he even said like boycott is haram. I don't know where he personally got that from, but this is what he said. Um, so you have figures like him. Then you have a student of Faris al-Hamadi called Zahak Tanvir. And he's actually in Saudi prison. Saudi put him in prison. And there are reports that he was actually a spy for the Indian government. And he even said, I appreciate the Modi government for its handling of Islamism. And when Saudi found that out, they put him in jail. But on social media, he was like supporting Israel, supporting the BJP Hindutva party. Um, then you have another individual called named Noor Dahari, and he himself actually calls himself a Zionist Salafi. He actually goes and trains with the IDF. He denounces Palestinians a lot. A lot of times he says Muslims are terrorists, but the irony is he calls himself a Muslim. Then you have Loya Al Sharif, like he's a big supporter of Israel. And the interesting thing is that a lot of them actually push not just Zionism, but a lot of them push perennialism, which is the idea that, all religions are saved. Like they're ultimately all the same. So a lot of them also push that agenda. Now, you also have certain other people. So like you have Abdullah bin Baya or Baya. He's a Mauritanian scholar, Sufi scholar, and he actually gave the fatwa of validating Israel as a state. Um, and basically, he also has dialogues sometimes with Zionists. And uh, you can also see his student Sheikh Hamza Yusuf sometimes being in that dialogue as well. This is a bit similar when it comes to the Vatican II, when the Reformation with the Catholic Church and the Catholics having dialogues with Jews to promote peace and those type of things. So it's but making it softer with towards the attitude of Zionism. Now when it comes to Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, I'm not like fully sure, but there are certain indications that he sometimes might have a soft side towards it. But Abdullah bin Baya, like he gave a fatwa of validating actually Israel as a state. Now, I'm not saying these figures are like Zionists, I'm just saying that it looks like they kind of have a soft attitude towards it. Then you have the Abrahamic family house, which is somewhere in the Gulf, one of the Gulf countries. So this is kind of a way like promoting perennialism, because the Abrahamic religions like Islam, Christianity, Judaism, they're ultimately the same. So kind of promoting that. Hey guys, so that was basically the different types of Zionisms. I just went over it one by one, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Unfortunately now, the genocide is still going on, and we have to keep Palestine, Masjid al-Aqsa, in our duas, you know, and wherever Muslims are suffering, and also humanity, wherever humans in general are suffering, we have to make dua. May Allah free Palestine, may Allah free Masjid al-Aqsa. May Allah help the Muslim Ummah. May Allah help humanity and make it easy. Forgive us. Ameen. And as I said before, I'll be coming out with more videos sometime later. Um, so take care, guys. I'll see you guys later.